Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini-episode, today I have an encounter with a four-armed humanoid being, who could be anything from a ghoul to a goblin. And then we're going to read about the Beast of Bray Road, and both articles look truly intriguing. So let's start off with this article, Terrifying Four-Armed Humanoid Encountered at Phoenix, Arizona Residence, and get into this terrifying account now, folks. Let's hear the full story. On a summer night in July 2011, a Phoenix man's quiet evening unraveled into a surreal nightmare, from a shattered phone to the sudden appearance of a grotesque four-armed creature with gill-like ribs. His story raises haunting questions about what truly visited him that night. On July 5th, 2011, in Phoenix, Arizona, a witness was in his backyard when his dog began barking uncontrollably. He tried to calm her down, but she kept running back and forth in the yard, jumping the fence as if she were chasing a cat. Eventually, she sat down in the middle of the yard, still barking. The witness decided to go outside one last time to bring her inside, but as soon as he approached her, she stopped barking. It became eerily silent, and the night was pitch black. When he looked up, he couldn't see any stars. Instead, he thought he noticed a sort of black eclipse in the sky. Suddenly, his cell phone shattered for no apparent reason, and the battery began to leak. He couldn't remember what happened next, and later woke up in his room. Now, the dog barking is one thing, folks. It sounds like he could sense something, and that it was truly frightening the animal. But the fact that this man also saw what looks like a black eclipse in the sky makes me think that he saw a UFO, if that's indeed what he experienced that night, folks. Because I don't know. Maybe it was something else as well. Maybe a shadow form. Perhaps this is actually an encounter with maybe the shadow people that we're actually reading here, folks. Because the fact that he saw this thing in the sky that looked like a black eclipse makes me think that, that it was a spaceship. But I can't be for sure. Either way, so far, very, very interesting. But let's read on. His subsequent encounter occurred the following morning around 4 or 5 a.m. when the sun was barely rising. Looking out the window, he saw a being that was as clear as day. Its face was very bony and sunken, lacking eyes and a nose. Instead, there were holes on the side of its head that resembled reptilian ears. The creature had pale flesh with a slight green tint and blue spots. It was tall, though it hunched over with four arms and tiny legs. Its prominent spine was easily visible through its flesh. Where the ribs would typically be, there were bright pink structures that looked like gills. Stunned, the witness dropped his glass of milk, and the creature turned to look at him. Staring for what felt like hours, he blacked out again and later woke up around noon. It sounds like he encountered, a cross between basically a pale crawler and a reptilian, folks, because that's what exactly it sounds like. Either way, finishing off the article now, the witness also reported two other encounters at a nearby Navajo reservation, during which he discovered a glassy spiderweb-like material that was eventually buried by others present. Source, witness's account. Now, the fact that he brought up the Navajo means that maybe what he encountered was actually, skinwalkers, but I have my doubt, folks. It sounds like he encountered aliens, and this being in particular sounds like a reptilian alien, as well as maybe a pale crawler, especially with the way he was described as having no face, folks, which is something that we've seen with other pale crawler accounts. Either way, a very terrifying story, folks. Be it alien or something else. Let's move on to the next article, though. The Beast of Bray Road, our terrifying encounter in the Kettle Marine State Forest. And hear how about these people encountered the literal Beast of Bray Road, folks, because it sounds truly fascinating as well. Let's get into this article by reading the opening and then hearing the full account for ourselves. In July 2022, what began as a casual hike through Wisconsin's Kettle Marine State Forest turned into a chilling brush with the unknown. Was the towering, house-sized creature that shadowed us through the fields the infamous Beast of Bray Road, or something even stranger still? This is my story about the Beast of Bray Road, which I've shared before. In July 2022, my husband and I hiked a trail in the Kettle Marine State Forest. It was midday, and a handful of other people were around. I want to clarify that we were sober. We hiked far enough along the trail that we stopped passing anyone. Most people seemed to be hanging out closer to the parking lot as we walked through an area with nearby crop fields and a farm visible in the distance. We began to creep ourselves out with silly things: a black and white striped snake, a lacy white cloth hanging from a tree, and a large pile of rocks surrounding a lone tree. Just for fun, I kept saying that if we saw three weird things, we should turn around. After passing the tree, I suggested we head back, but my husband wanted to reach the next mile marker on his watch since we were so close, so we continued through the fields and entered a wooded area where we could still see the fields through the trees. Suddenly, we spotted something huge. It had a grayish-brown fur, and it was the size of a horse, but its head looked strange. It was far away, but it was running towards us, beeline through the field. We quickly turned around and started walking fast, unsure whether it was a massive dog or something else. The way it ran was unnerving. It moved on all fours with long ears, and it seemed to glide or run in slow motion. We began sprinting, and the creature kept pace with us, running alongside without getting closer. We sprinted all the way back to the woods, and thankfully we didn't see it again after that. So, was this the actual Beast of Bray Road, folks, or was it just, well, an encounter with basically a huge canine cryptid? If there is any difference between the two, folks, because some people do say that dogmen are just large canines who basically can walk on their back legs. Or maybe it was a werewolf. Either way, this thing sounds very canine-like to me, folks, and not a Bigfoot, so we can say that. But let's, well, read on. As we reached the parking lot, we warned everyone and we passed to be careful as we had encountered a strange large creature. I'm sure we freaked out a few people. Later, we shared our experience with a friend who said, "That sounds like the Beast of Bray Road." We looked it up and were eerie at how similar it sounded. To this day, we feel unsettled by the experience. That night, while walking home from dinner in the dark, we took a wrong turn and ended up in a fenced-off area with a family of deer. The buck slowly began advancing on us while the rest of the family stood behind him, so we had to climb the fence to escape before getting too close. I like to think nature was really trying to warn us that day, And maybe it did, folks. Maybe nature wanted to warn these people, well, to get out of this particular cryptid's territory, folks. Maybe it saw its home as the field and the area where they were basically trespassing. Just like the way this buck was approaching them the night that they basically inadvertently, approached him and his family. Maybe nature was telling them, well, idiots, get out of here. You're not wanted. It's an interesting idea, isn't it, folks? Either way, the first story we read about, folks, probably was a UFO encounter, but I can't be for sure. All I know is that this cryptid definitely sounds like a pale crawler. But there were also, other aspects to it, folks. It had 4 arms, which is unusual, but it also had reptilian features like the ears and, the greenish tint. It also had basically gills, what looked like were on its ribs. So maybe it was a reptilian, but it didn't have a face. That is something we've seen with lots of pale crawler accounts, where people basically notice that these entities just have literally pale white or basically brown skin where their faces should be, folks. At times, maybe they just have black eyes and maybe just a mouth. Either way, this entity sounded very much like those kinds of accounts, right, with it having no eyes, but I guess eaters and stuff like that. So, this entity sounds terrifying, but was it a reptilian, alien, or something else entirely? It could be, folks, that this man encountered something strange, and when he basically saw this entity the next morning, that it was just a coincidence, that his sixth sense was awakened by basically having this weird encounter that could very well have been an abduction event, folks, and now he can see ghosts and other things now when they are nearby. We just don't know for sure. And the account with, let's just say, this cryptid that could very well be the Beast of Bray Road, folks, this dogman. All we know for sure, folks, is that it definitely wanted these people out of its territory, which is what we've seen with basically Bigfoot and other dogmen, encounters before, folks. These entities don't like people being in their homes. So, that much we can see right there. Either way, folks, both accounts are truly interesting, but unfortunately, they leave us with more questions than answers than anything else. But truly, both stories were truly frightening. So at the very least, they fit the Halloween season. But now we're at the end, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics, they're bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure that the part of the bell, that'll give you all future notifications. And please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so make sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.